Hey everyone. Today we have Jaime who should be joining any second.
Hey,
Hi
hi
Jaime.
everybody.
Hi.
So excited for today.
Yeah.
I saw you were already explaining if you wanted to keep on explaining what we
I
were
was
doing.
just saying that you're super flexy and that when we are super flexy we have to deal with different things, but that in sitting in second, when we're sitting in a straddle, we tend to make the same corrections over and over and over and over, both for safety reasons. And so we're not pulling on the wrong stuff, we're pulling on the right stuff, but that we're also strengthening and aligning and how that all. And what I love what you said is that just that simple sitting in second position is like typing. Like you have to type one letter at a time
Yeah.
to make a sentence. And so I thought that was a really interesting way to think about how we teach alignment and how it fits into the stretching, but in particular sitting in second or outside of the dance world, sitting, you can't see my arms, but like our legs,
Right.
sitting with our legs in a straddle.
Totally.
Yeah. So talk to me.
Yeah, no, I obviously I talked about this in my very first chat like months ago now. Um but I always was naturally like very capable of doing like different flexible, different things that were considered flexible even before I started training as a dancer. So it became very easy to develop a lot of like I'm not going to call them bad habits because I don't want to place judgment on them, but like a lot of habits that a lot of us dancers fall into because it's just so natural to just like kind of fall into things and not really take into account why it may not necessarily be correct. And if that is the case, what that might feel like years down the line. Like you're not thinking that far ahead until you're a dancer who's in like their 30s plus, and you're like, oh, I wish I had made a different choice,
Right.
you know? Um, and so once I'd started Lastics, obviously I came into the technique with a lot of facility already, but not necessarily a ton of knowledge about the inner workings of my own body. Because I'm not somebody who went to school for dance. I didn't study anatomy or anything like that. So I didn't necessarily have an exact handle on how things are connected, how they should be lined up so that they're working to the best of their ability. So something that just became super kind of obvious from the beginning was when we were all in second, it was just super easy for my hips to kind of fully roll through.
All right, now are we going to show this?
Yeah, I mean, we can try. I don't know how, if I can get necessarily enough distance for you to see both of my legs, but I can show you at least half, like at least one leg,
Okay.
I think. Here you can see this is my hip right here,
Yeah.
where my leg connects to my pelvis, and here's my knee.
So do what when you first came into class, what you were doing with your hips and your knees.
So it was easy just for my whole torso, which obviously is here, to just fully fall over this way.
Yeah, see, ouch. Okay. Now let me just comment on that. I see that all the time. People
Yeah,
go forward and let their knees roll in like that.
right.
And you shouldn't need to roll your knees with your body. So what we retrain to do in class, so Jaime, now keep your knees up and walk out. So like you can see how his knees want to roll in, but if he holds them in their hip socket, he's strengthening and he's actually stretching more than if he let the knees roll forward.
Yeah. I can't go as far forward without my knees starting to make the adjustment that they want to. So I'm now using my brain to tell me like, okay, I'm not gonna go past this point because my alignment isn't ready to do that right now. Right? Because no matter what, if I want to go to my elbows, it's forcing my knees to come with me because I'm just not warmed up enough.
You know what I always say?
Yeah.
Make your body find it, because otherwise you kind of dumb it down, right? Like I always said, you need to be able to make your muscles do the work. So that's a connection between your mind and your body. The same way I went to a gym and I took a weight in my hand. I'll just take one of our muscle rubs, and I put something in my hand, and someone came up and took it and helped me. This is never going to work. It's never going to engage. It's never going to activate to actually lift the weight. The same exact thing is true with stretching. So Jamie has to find those little muscles around his hips to hold his legs there.
And so what I would do in this instance, because I'm not as warmed up and my body is a little bit, we all get that little bit of regression when we haven't done physical activity for a while. So in this instance, this is my full second, but because I can't fully go over without rotating inward, this is where I would close my legs a little and allow them to have that more turnout in a more closed V, and then I would walk myself forward, because now I'm putting my weight forward and my knees aren't going anywhere.
Right.
So then, once I've retrained myself to get it in this place, then I can reopen up again and try to get it that way.
Right, and hold them there.
Yeah. So it's kind of like easing the tension by closing it back up, giving my torso the space to actually fall. And then once my body gets used to that more closed V, then I can reopen up and try to do the same thing.
Okay, so show me, roll the knee forward again too, because I just want to make a point about that. So
sure, absolutely.
All the time we see this, whoop, and then people lay flat on their face.
Yeah, so this is my butt.
Yep.
And here's my hip, right?
Yep.
Over the crease of my leg. Yep. My knee, my calf, and my foot is out of screen, but I'm fully rolled forward.
Right, because your knee is pointing to me, and so is probably part of your toes.
Yeah, the top of my foot is also looking at you.
Yes. So that is not stretching where you think you're stretching, because it's releasing the inner thighs, which is what you're trying to stretch in a straddle.
Right.
And it also is putting a ton of pressure on the inside of that knee.
Right.
And that is where my story comes in, because I blew my knee out doing that.
So we're going to walk ourselves back up.
Right. And so we're going to come out of that position.
Right. And we're going to just not sit in that.
Right. So the key is always, so come back in, Jamie, so I'm not talking to your knee.
Got it.
Although it's fine. I mean, we do that in Lastics. We talk to knees, we talk to
Absolutely.
shoulders.
Knees, toes, tops of the feet, all the things.
Right. So when you were in class, right, when you first came, what you felt was exactly what you just showed us, right? Like you were like, oh, I can't do that with my legs this far out, so I'm going to bring them in. I'm going to keep the strength in my hips to hold my alignment. And then I'm going to start to walk out.
Right. Yeah, it's not so much, not necessarily being incapable of doing it the correct way, but retraining my brain to make the correct way the way you my go-to way.
Right. Right.
Right. Yeah. About knowing that, like, it's a completely different feeling when my legs are turned out versus when they're rolled in. It's a completely different sensation. You feel it in completely different places. And so you have to retrain your brain to know that, like, this other feeling is what I'm going for. And this is not what I'm going for.
I'm going to move this back, and I'm going to show you when I have my dancers. I don't know if I'm going to show you because I'm going to have the same space.
I know, angles. Oh,
This usually takes a whole camera crew. So I'll have dancers, and their legs are completely here,
Mm-hmm.
and their face is completely on the floor and their knees are rolled forward. So I'll say, can you do me a favor and not let your knees roll forward? And when I watch them, clearly they're over. I watch them go forward and they'll literally go this far, which tells me they already are feeling their knees going.
Yep.
Right? And then they'll really, really, really work hard just to do that. And then they'll go a little bit more. And I'll say to them, like, do you feel that? Because I know they're so like, woo.
Yeah.
And they go, oh yeah. And that's how I know, because they're actually getting in there.
Yeah.
Without letting it all just collapse into the floor.
Yeah. And I will say, you know, at some point when you're completely open, right? When you're in a full straddle, like 180 degrees, at some point your range of motion is going to cease, right? Because your legs don't go beyond 180 because they would just snap out of your body.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So at some point when you're going over, like some people don't necessarily have the bone structure to allow for being all the way open and all the way flat on the floor. Like some people's hip sockets are just not shaped that way.
Their hips stop.
Right.
It's
like
a hinge.
It's about bone. It's the way that like your hip sits in your leg. Like it, you know, some people can have their knees like almost pointing back and be all the way over. And I'm like, I don't know how you do that. My body doesn't do that.
Because that's the same problem, right? We fix that. Because then I'm like, then you got to use the same hip muscles to hold your legs, to bring your legs, knees up. Either way, you're throwing off the linear shape of the muscles we're trying to stretch. So it's like you don't even know, well, this is how I sit and I'm stretching.
Yeah.
There's all this consciousness you can bring to it and be like, well, if you actually do X, Y, and Z, then you're strengthening just to be able to stabilize and position your body, and then you're stretching the actual thing that you want to stretch, and you're doing it safely.
Yeah, because I feel like we see it all the time also with like people who have very hyperextended knees. And so like when you actually tell them to straighten their leg, they completely lock their knee out and their foot is like floating above the ground. And you're like, but that's not a straight leg.
Right. Like, so let's actually it makes a good point about the idea that we're talking about the control necessary when your legs roll around in your hips when you're sitting in a straddle. But let's go to the other extreme, like when we talk about bent knees or hyperextended knees, right? Like neither one is good. We're getting you here. Right? We don't want you bent and we don't want you bent backwards, right? We want you here. So that's what we do. So for people, so if I'm in a straddle, right, and just let's make pretend I go all the way down.
Yeah.
I have to control my hips. But for some people, this is not happening. They're back here.
Right. Their pelvis is
not going this way.
Right.
So I do this in my class a lot. If you sit back here, if you feel like you're rocking back and you're stuck back here, and you try to go forward, go ahead and try.
You're not going anywhere.
You're not going. And if my butt is under, I'm not going anywhere. And this is what you see.
Right, because it's not allowing you to reach out. You're just reaching down, which is not going to help you.
So the first thing that has to happen is this pelvis needs to at least sit straight. At least needs to untuck. Yep. And if your hips are too tight back, you just use your hands this way. And you get it there. And you just try to get it loose and moving. Because then if you can picture, butt is this way, sit bones are there. Now I'm going to put sit bones down into the floor. My back is going to straighten, or I'm going to push myself straight. The next phase is sit bones go behind me. So they're going to go back and I'm going to go forward. Yeah.
Right.
So so for people who are the opposite, right, of you're going all the way forward, knees rolling forward. Some people are stuck more in tight hips back here.
Stuck back there. Yeah.
They just have to get up, and you'll see when people are back here and they sit up, the knees go up too because it's all tight. So you just think of a rubber band. If there's not enough space in there, it's like those dolls, you know, with the like little rollers.
Yeah.
Ding, ding.
Right, but that pelvic movement really is the, I mean, obviously it's the flip side of the same coin for somebody who's going all the way over with their legs rolling in like I was early on.
Right.
But like I'm capable of tilting my pelvis all the way forward,
This
so
way.
my legs have no problem going with it. And
Right.
it's like, no, no.
So
I have to find that straight center space, which like when I did that modification, that straight kind of sitting vertical pelvis is easier for me to find when my legs aren't as far open.
Right. But again, be really careful about those knees because that's how mine blew up like an airbag.
Right. But then we should also like note that obviously in your straddle, both of your knees are going in the same direction. But obviously once you're transitioning into a split, your knees are going in opposite directions, right? One knee is going up and the other knee is going down.
Well, that's if you turn.
Right, exactly. Because your hips have now shifted where one leg is going under and one leg is going out.
Right. Maybe we'll do a splits chat somehow.
Yeah.
It's like, look.
Right. We can condense or widen the angle.
So that's pretty much it's
the hip is obviously a large part of it, but I think we also, one of the things I think we just showed in this chat today is that like your pelvic placement and alignment is also kind of what is the precursor to even getting you where you want to go.
Right.
Because if you've set your pelvis in the wrong spot, either too far back or too far forward, you're not gonna get the desired outcome.
Well, also, if your pelvis is too far back or your pelvis is too far forward, you 100% have stuff you need to be thinking about.
100%.
100. If that's happening, there are things you need to do. Again, remember we were here. We want to
bring it back to that straight kind of center place.
Right, because think of anything. If you're going to stretch something, it can't be like all bent and twisted and kinked and coiled. It has to be straight.
It has to be elongated and straight. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Right, because bent is not stretched.
Bent is not stretched.
Correct. 100%.
Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah. If you guys have any questions, ask. Do you know what next week chat is going to be? Have we figured that out yet? Didn't know if we wanted to tell the people, get them interested.
No, I'm sure we do. Okay, let me think. Who comes after you?
Blondine?
I think it's Angela. But if it's Blondine, I know what Blondine's doing. She is doing
Patty's laughing at us.
For Lastics. We are all about getting in there and stretching. It's Angela.
Next week is Angela. Cool.
All right, well, I'm going to tell you what Blondine's doing in 2 weeks. People think they need to move to stretch, Oh,
yeah.
And what we talk about and what she's been working on in class is just not moving so much on the outside, but finding it deep on the inside, activating the muscle, because when you push on it, it actually gives you a much deeper, more intense stretch.
That's exciting because that's kind of like what Lastics is about.
Totally. That is it. So Angela's up next week. Tune in Thursday at 3. It'll be, I'm sure, fun and
amazing as always.
And she usually does a stretch with everybody too, so that's fun.
Oh, that is fun.
Yeah, and then 2 weeks is Blondine.
Work.
Oh, there's Ian. Hey, Ian.
Hey.
Ian's gonna do one with Emma on climbing, so that's weeks from now.
Oh, fierce.
We got a lot going on.
I think that's it for now.
Jaime teaches privates. I teach privates. We have an open schedule as of March. We'll have classes every day of the week. And that's it. Nothing else to report.
It was perfect. It's a perfectly wrapped gift with a little tiny bow on it for Valentine's Day.
Great. All right, guys. Thanks for coming.
Yay.
For tuning in.
You're the best.
You're the best.
See you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.